Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I've got another weapons mastery video. Now what I'm doing in these videos is I'm trying to master all the primary weapons in Battlefield 3 before Battlefield 4 comes out. I'm working on the SVD today. Now to get your mastery dog tags you need to get 500 kills. So I would say once you have 500 kills with any particular gun, you're going to know that gun pretty well. You're going to understand the recoil, you're going to understand what kinds of engagements it's effective for. And this in turn will not only make you a more knowledgeable Battlefield player, but it will make you a better Battlefield player. You can pick up a random gun off the ground and have a pretty good idea about how it's going to function before ever firing it. Now I'm using the SVD here, pretty much stock with a 3.4 times sight on it. I will be switching up the sights a little bit later in the video because I do like 3.4 times, but I found myself being a little bit more effective with the hollow sight. Just because I found I wasn't getting quite as zoned in on one narrow area. It's kind of weird. I mean, I feel like I can do really well with both kinds of sights, but I will say the recoil with the 3.4 times sight had me losing my targets a little bit more than I would like. And here, as you can see, I've got the hollow sight. It does look a bit goofy on the SVD, but I just found it much easier to kind of control the recoil. Sure, I wasn't going for headshots quite as accurately, but I was able to hit people with follow-up shots much more consistently. Now, the SVD in Battlefield 4 is going to be classified as a DMR, so any class in the game can use this gun. You don't have to be recon, you could be support, and you could snipe people as support class if you like. It's an interesting platform in Battlefield 4 because it's the SVD-12. I'm not 100% sure how much damage it does, but based on what I was playing, it looked like it took a little bit longer to kill people in that. But it has more ammunition in the game too. In Battlefield 4 it has 16 rounds, whereas as you can see here I only have 11 rounds. But it seems to be a little bit more powerful of a weapon here. You can one-shot somebody if you shoot them in the head. It does 50 damage maximum. However, that one-shot kill range disappears at 15 meters. Beyond that, you start dropping off in damage. Ultimately, this gun can do as little as 37.5 damage per shot, which still means it's a 3-shot kill regardless of the distance that you're at. Now, it's still worthwhile to aim for the head at distances because if you shoot somebody in the head once, it's double damage and then you can hit them once in the body shot. A common technique is the initial body shot and then aiming for the head right after that, or letting the natural recoil bring your next shot up to the head, and you can two-shot somebody at distance. Now, having spent some time with DMRs in Battlefield 4, I will say that it's much more pleasant to fire them with the new suppression system. Here, I feel like once you get in a firefight at long range, if you get suppressed with a DMR, you're screwed. You pretty much have to kill your opponents before they can really do much in the way of returning fire. And here's my mastery dog tags. I definitely like to play with a weapon a little bit more beyond the 500 kill mark just to make sure I really got a feel for it. I really know what's going on with this gun. Fortunately though, in Battlefield 3, a lot of, well, I don't know if you call this fortunately, but fortunately for learning the weapons in Battlefield 3, they're very similar to each other. The SVD, the Mark 11, the QVU 88, all those guns are very, very similar. So if you get used to one, chances are you can pick up another one without too much effort. There are, however, subtle differences, and those are important things to know. And it probably paints you a picture of why the SVD isn't really used all that much in Battlefield 3. Now, in general, in its current state, I think Battlefield 3 has some of the best weapon balancing out of any first-person shooter I've ever played. That being said, there's plenty of guns that are just not perfect, not really useful when compared to other weapons. The SVD unfortunately falls into that category. When compared directly to the Mark 11, the SVD is actually identical in almost every single way. The hipfire is exactly the same. The aiming down sight accuracy is exactly the same. The recoil, vertical and horizontal, is exactly the same. The recoil recovery. At this point, you may as well have just copied and pasted the SVD and Mark 11 stats together. They even have the exact same rate of fire. The only way that the Mark 11 and SVD actually differ is in their reload speed. The Mark 11 takes 1.85 seconds to reload, where the SVD takes 2.15 seconds. These are the short reload speeds. The long reload speeds, the Mark 11 is 2.4 seconds, where the SVD is 3.3 seconds. I hope in Battlefield 4 that weapons can be looked over in a way so that there's something going for each gun in the game. I'm not saying to make every gun amazing, but they should have some sort of stat that makes them unique. You know, they need to perform a little bit differently in a way that's not just all around worse than other comparable weapons. Now obviously in real life some guns are simply better than others. They can be more accurate, they can reload faster, they can do more damage. There's tons of benefits to some of the modern weapons compared to the old weapons out there. Some games like Counter-Strike have the ability to put a cash value behind weapons, so they can say, well look, this gun is going to be better than that gun. The M4 is going to be better than the MP5, but you're going to have to pay more money for it, which is a very cool way of trying to balance things. It allows players who had a bad round and don't have a lot of cash to spend on weapons to purchase some of the lesser guns and then pick up guns off the ground. I really loved that dynamic of Counter-Strike, but when you have games like Battlefield 3 where players can basically use any gun once they've unlocked it, then we have to find a way to try and balance out those weapons and make it so that once you unlock the next level gun, that there's still a reason at some point to use the guns that came before that. They still have to have some sort of benefit. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the SVD and what kind of situations it's good for. Now, it's a DMR, basically semi-auto sniper rifle. It's generally not going to kill your opponents in one shot unless you hit them in the head or they're damaged before you hit them. And you're going to want to use it in medium to long range situations. When you're up against a bolt action sniper rifle, you are at a disadvantage. DMRs can suppress, and I'm sorry I keep calling them DMRs, I've kind of switched over to the Battlefield 4 way of calling things, but they can suppress other snipers out there, but I've had many situations where I've shot an enemy sniper who had a bolt action, or I've shot right past their head and then they've landed a headshot directly on me with a bolt action, killing me in one shot. So I wouldn't rely too heavily on the suppression of this weapon. If your opponent's shooting at you before you start shooting at them, generally you want to try and back out of that engagement. I will frequently, once I'm suppressed, back around a corner, try and find a different corner to peek, or wait enough time till I think my opponent's slightly bored, maybe looking at a different corner, and re-peek the same corner so that I can get a first shot. Otherwise, you're just not going to hit your targets. No matter how good your accuracy is, once that suppression sets in, your bullets are just going to deviate way too much and you're not going to hit anything. Now, I don't talk about this a lot, but I feel like map choice is really one of the most important factors when deciding on what weapon to pick. If I was using the SVD in No Shower Canals Team Deathmatch, it would probably end up being a terrible choice, or would have to really just stick to long range parts of that map. I think Karg Island Team Deathmatch is a great map for DMRs just because you have medium to long range engagement scenarios all over the place. Sure, there's some close quarter actions in the crates, but if you play the map right, you understand how it works, you can definitely set yourself up for those medium to long range engagements. Rush maps, both offensive and defensively, are great places to play with DMRs because you have generally open areas or long stretches that you know your opponent has to come down. It sets you up with a good defensive or offensive situation that you can sit in and pick people off from long range. So that pretty much wraps it up for the SVD Mastery Dog Tag video. Let me know in the comments which weapon you'd like me to do next. The remaining weapons are listed in the video description. Unfortunately, I can't recommend the SVD. If you have the Mark 11 unlocked, use that instead. Personally, I prefer the M417. I also like the SKS a lot for DMR style weapons. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.